Today I'm sharing how we raised meat chickens right here in our suburban backyard on just 1/8 of an acre and put over 75 pounds of chicken into our freezer in just one day. But more than just a how-to, this is the real story, the good, the bad, and the ugly of raising 14 meat birds in a small space as a stay-at-home mama who just wanted to know exactly where her family's meat was coming from. We decided on a small number of chicks to see how well we would manage in a small space. We picked up 14 Cornish cross chicks from our local feed store. We started with a small 8x4 A-frame tractor that we built ourselves using lumber and scrap hardware cloth we had on hand from other projects. It was simple, light, and did the job beautifully. It was also key that we started in the late summer, early fall when it was still warm enough to start the chicks outside with a heat lamp, and then it was cool once it was time to process them. I think timing the weather can be really beneficial when raising meat chickens if you can help it. I can only imagine in the heat of the summer with all of the poop that they make, how stinky and unmanageable it could become. The A-frame was easy enough for me to move by myself thanks to a clever wheel system my husband rigged up. He repurposed an old tricycle and created a lever mechanism that popped the wheels down, lifting the tractor just enough to roll smoothly across the grass. That tricycle lift lasted through the entire grow out, only needing one minor screw repair, and now a full year later, it's still going strong.
You're just pushing it with your foot.
Okay.
That's where all the power comes from. This is just to give it a little edge, just a little ease. That's all there is to it. Super, super simple.
And it's lifted.
And you're getting, look, 2 inches on the nose like you asked for.
Nice.
Okay, and then the release. The
Watch
pressure's
out,
on
make
the
sure
foot.
that chicken's, make sure that
I see him. Pressure's on the foot.
They do have wheel systems like this on Amazon and other places. If you're looking to just purchase something to attach, they can be pretty pricey. So finding a way to be creative and make one yourself is definitely the way to go. In those first few weeks, I kept the A-frame in our main backyard close enough that I could keep a close eye on the chicks. They're so small at that stage, not very messy yet, and it helped me stay on top of their water and feed and watch for any issues. Once they started putting on size, I moved them to our side yard where we have about 1/8 of an acre of flat, usable land to move the tractor around on. That's also where our laying hens are, so it made sense to transition them there. Raising meat birds in a small space like this is totally doable, but it requires intention. I would move the tractor in our main small backyard every 2 to 3 days while they were smaller. I kept a little gate thing that I used for my babies behind the coop after I'd move it to keep the kids from walking through fresh poop. Sometimes I would water the poop in to help it get more into the ground and get rid of extra mess. Once the birds got a little bigger, I'd say around 4 weeks, and were making more mess, they moved over into our side yard. We can only use the front half because that is where the land is flat enough, and since we live on a slope down into the river, we only have a small space that made sense to keep the meat birds so that the tractor laid flat on the ground to avoid any predators being able to dig under. We move the tractor 2 to 3 times a day, keeping them on clean ground and give the grass time to recover. They also got supervised free-ranging time when me and the kids were outside or just around the house. I never left them out when we weren't home in case of hawks or other predators. I would put apple cider vinegar into their water to support their immune systems and kept a close eye on feed times. We would remove their feed at night to prevent overeating and leg issues, but during the day, they did get free food anytime they wanted. We did also hang their feed buckets and water buckets inside to keep them off the ground and to keep them clean. Now let's talk about the good. There's something incredibly satisfying about knowing you're raising real food right in your own yard. The chickens were content, active, and well cared for, and when it came time to fill our freezer, I knew exactly what went into the meat we were feeding our family. But here's the truth. It was not all beautiful. These birds grow fast, and with that comes a lot of mess. Even with multiple daily tractor moves, the amount of droppings they produce is wild. I had to stay on top of cleaning waters, watching for wet patches, and refreshing bedding every single day. They're also really fragile. They grow super fast, which does come with some health problems. We lost one to a pressure sore that turned into a skin infection, and despite all the care in the world, sometimes their bodies just can't keep up with their rapid growth, and like I said, they can be pretty fragile. You also cannot leave town. You really can't even skip a feeding or forget to close the tractor. They require daily hands-on care, morning, midday, and evening. It's not a set it and forget it process. And then came butcher day. This was our first time processing meat birds, and I will not sugarcoat it. It was a big day. I handled the processing with my husband's help. He got real creative as usual. He made this dispatching station out of a dolly, an old milk carton, and some wood, and a catch bucket we had laying around. Some of our birds were a little big for the kill cone, but we made it work and didn't spend any extra on tools we could make do without. Our kids came along for the process, but no, we did not let them see us dispatch them. They understood they were food, but they are still a little young to witness that part, in my opinion. But they were there for the rest of the processing. Once we had our station all set up, it was time to begin. If you're sensitive to the processing of animals, please skip this part. I want to show the real process to help anyone trying to learn, but I do want to give a warning to any that would like to fast forward or skip the rest of the processing. There will be a little blood and chickens no longer alive in the coming scenes. We started by pulling 2 birds at a time from the side yard, walking them calmly over to the processing area. Yes, they would run away and try to escape just because they weren't used to being handled a lot. We pulled their feed 24 hours before we started processing to avoid any extra mess of undigested food still in their systems. From there, we dispatched the birds quickly and respectfully and let them bleed for a bit. After that, we scalded them in hot water around 160 to 170 degrees until the feathers were easy to pull. Some people also say until the skin is easy to pull off of their feet, and that's when you know they're ready. That step took about 30 to 45 seconds per bird. Once they're scalded, we move them straight into the chicken plucker, which was honestly a game changer. It only took about 20 seconds to get the birds nearly feather free. And for the sake of being transparent, we totally shredded our first couple chickens in the plucker by accident. We left them a little too long, but totally still edible. I'll end up making those birds into shredded chicken for tacos or tortilla soup. Nothing will get wasted, and it's okay to make mistakes when first learning a new skill. We have minor roughness on a couple of others, but for the majority, they all came out perfectly plucked after that. I did have to hand pluck a little here and there, and I think that's totally common. From there, we took them to the processing table where we gutted, cleaned, and inspected each bird carefully. That part took the most time, especially in the beginning, but by the last few, we had found a rhythm. It was actually quite peaceful and relaxing, feeling each bird with my hands and cleaning them to my liking for my family. It was truly a beautiful thing for us to experience. We have processed lots of animals in our day. My husband is a great hunter, but something about fully raising them on our own land, it was just a different feeling for us, a really good one. After processing, each chicken went directly into a pink bath to rinse and then an ice bath to chill and rest. Letting them sit in the cold water for several hours helps relax the meat and improve texture before packaging. So after the chicken was able to rest in the ice bath for several hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours actually is all we got because we were kind of in a rush. We had a family event that evening. It was time to bag them and shrink wrap them. So these bags are really nifty off Amazon. You put the chickens in, plunge it into the hot water for just a few seconds, and the plastic shrink wraps around the chicken. We processed all 14 birds in one day. It was long, it was a little bit intense, but we got it done in half a day, and it was also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I stood back that evening with bags of clean, home-raised chicken, all of the feet, all of the organs in our cooler, and I just felt this deep, quiet pride. I had done it from brooder to butcher. I'd seen it all the way through. And if you're sitting there wondering if you could do this, maybe you've only got a little yard, maybe you've got toddlers running around, maybe you've never harvested your own food before, let me just say this, you can. It takes grit, it takes a little bit of creativity and a lot of consistency, but it's absolutely possible and so worth it. Thank you so much for watching and letting me share our experience, the good, the bad, and all the messy truth in between. If you've got questions or your own backyard meat bird story, I'd love to hear it in the comments. And if this inspired or encouraged you, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life homemaking content. From one imperfect but determined mama to another, see you next time.